Welcome to my sewing room. I wanted to just do a quick little tour video, show you how I have it set up and what works for me. I've had several people ask, like, how do you have your sewing room organized? What do you use? Like, how do you clean it up and how do you manage it? So yeah, I'm just gonna take a minute and show you. It's not pristinely picked up, but it's kind of in an operational cleanliness. So I'm just gonna kind of show you how that looks and how I use this room. It's a dining room, so it's a decent size room, but it's not huge. There are no doors. I just kind of can come in this way or that way, but it works well for my family and for what I need. Let's start with how I have it set up. I tend to be the type of sewist that is very free with where things are. I don't stick to like a certain layout. I kind of allow my layout to change and evolve as my projects change. So if I have a sewing machine heavy project, I'll put my sewing machine on my main table. If I have a serger heavy project, then I'll have that over on the main table. And I just kind of move my machines around so that they complement each other well, so that I'm not running all over the place, but I can kind of move from machine to machine as needed. And that's kind of how I do it. I tend to just allow the project to determine where I'm going to be working during that day. Let's start with my cutting table. So this is my cutting table. There are some half-finished projects on here, some shorts for my son that need a pocket because he said they don't work if they don't have pockets, a pattern that we're testing that needed tweaks, a shirt for my daughter, and then a shirt for myself. I kind of just use this space for several purposes. I use the table for cutting. I also use the table for organization of like extra stuff, thread, microphone, fabric, patterns, my little mini pressing iron. I bought these. I think I got these at the Dollar Tree, I'm gonna guess, but they work really well for keeping my printed patterns like kind of organized and together. So I have 3 of these in different colors. I just wanted it to be pretty and match the rainbow look. Okay, so, and I just put printed out patterns like you see there. I'll put them in their own bag, label it, and then put it down here. If it's something I plan to use or need to get to, then I tend to leave it there. I've got my clips. These are from Wawak. I have 2 sets of those because I use so many clips. I've got marking pens. I've got several just because I feel like I have to mark patterns a lot, especially when I'm cutting them out. So that's why they live over here, but they do migrate around my room as I'm using them. I've got my rotary cutters, some pencils, markers, pens, just because sometimes I need them. If I'm writing a note on a pattern so that I'll remember, if I'm writing on the bag what the pattern is, things like that. I have my scissors and my pressing roller. I have chalk. It's also for marking patterns. This is a pattern that needs a bag, but this is one of our cubes. I think it's a Claudia cubic bag, and I use it just to have it open here for all of my stuff, and I really like that. You'll see camera equipment around, but that's just because of my video stuff. I have 2 large cutting mats. One's under the table just because it's easier to store it there. And then I keep rulers. There's more over by my ironing board. And I always want good pattern weights. So I have pattern weights I got on Etsy. I like them to be cute, so that's why they're pretty. You could use anything though. It could be as basic as, you know, magnets from the refrigerator, or, you know, anything that's heavy will work well for a pattern weight. This table I got on Amazon, and it is a stainless steel prep table. I think it's mostly used in kitchens, but Jessica on our team has this table and loved it, so it looked like it would be a good fit for my needs. It does have this lip here, and someone asked me recently if this ever gets in the way, and the answer is no. I actually don't cut from over there hardly ever. I'm usually just like kind of reaching around and doing what I need on this side. Occasionally I will be on that side, but even so, it doesn't get in the way. So that hasn't been a problem for me. We have my Babylock Imagine Serger over here. Like I said, my machines move around the room as needed. So sometimes this machine will be over on the main table that I'll show you soon. And sometimes it'll be over here. It really just depends on what my project is and what I'm making at the time. I tend to keep whatever I'm using the most often over on my standing table, and then I just keep the other machine over here. I have this Babylock kit that has all the different threads. It came with my cover stitch machine, my Babylock Euphoria, and I actually really like this. Sometimes if I have it put away, I don't like to get all the threads and put them back in just because I have to disrupt my fabric down there, but it is really nice to have because all the colors match. I have my Yeti microphone down here, and mostly just containers holding fabric. But I really like that shelf. Jessica doesn't have the shelf, and she said she really wishes she did, so I'm glad that I went with the shelf. It just adds a lot of storage, so I really like that. That's my ultra short throw projector by Epson. I got it on eBay, refurbished. Schools will like get rid of all of their projectors and just refurbish them and sell them. It was pretty much new when I opened the package, and it only cost me $200. So it was a great investment. Now I can just project directly to the cutting board and cut. You'll see a lot of printed patterns because I learned sewing with printed patterns, and there's something about it that I really like. So I still print them. One, it allows me to check my work and the drafting to make sure it's all printing correctly. And two, I just like assembling the pattern, cutting it out, and having it to easily go back to. I think it just comes down to preference. Yes, projecting is so great because you don't have to store patterns, and you can pick just your size layers and go right to town cutting out without printing, assembling, storing the pattern. So it has a lot of benefits, but it just depends on what you enjoy and how sewing makes you feel happy. So I do a little bit of both. So let's move from this area over to my standing desk. Okay, so this is my standing desk. I also got this desk from Amazon. It sits and stands. It's totally adjustable, and it's all motorized. So essentially I plug it in and I use a button, and it goes up and down to wherever I want it within a range. So I find it's really sturdy, and I really like the fact that I can move it around if I want to stand, if I want to sit, how do I want to do it? And it really just works well for me. It holds a lot of weight, and I find that it's not super shaky like some tables, so I like that. This is my Babylock Euphoria cover stitch machine. It's a flash to thread. I was so worried that I wouldn't use it or it'd be a pain to thread it, but it probably takes like 30 seconds to change the thread colors, which is phenomenal if you've ever had to change out serger threads. But it's air threaded, and it's fast. So I love it. It's easy to use, and don't let it scare you. Cover stitch machines are actually quite easy to use once you've started playing with it a little bit. I have another halfway sewn shirt here. These are the sleeves, but I'm getting close. I like this little stand. It holds like cones of thread, which is nice if you are gonna make something that uses, maybe a project that's gonna use a lot of thread. You don't have to go through several of the smaller cones, especially if you can use white or black or something like that. You can kind of keep it threaded a lot. So you just put your thread on the little stick there. You go up, you go through this deal, and then you thread this to your machine, depending on how your machine goes. just like if it were on the other thread holder. Okay, this is just camera equipment. I told you I have a lot of camera equipment. So this is just an arm that allows me to put my camera here and show you what I'm doing with my hands, which is nice. These are 2 different thread racks right here. There is a really cute little caddy for trash over here. If I can get it off, show you. So it has a cup holder and a little container, and I put my trash in here. I just really like this. It's extremely handy. This one was from Create Room that does the DreamBox that I'll show you here in a minute. Okay, let's move on. I've got the stack of hoodies that my son has outgrown. Sometimes he brings me things and wants me to do something with them. So I think I might try to make a blanket out of those, just so he kind of has a memory quilt. He's had those for a long time and he wore them a lot. This stackable unit holds fabric and jeans that I plan to upcycle and things like that. It's also from Amazon, and I can drop a link. It was really easy to put together. We're gonna flip around now. So this is the DreamBox 2 by Create Room. It's really mostly created for people who do maybe paperwork, like scrapbooking, things like that. And it would work really well with crocheting, knitting, any kind of crafts it works well with. I feel like for sewing, there could be a better setup. Like, I love the drawers and the colors that I can put on them, but it also limits you to space to stack your fabric. So I actually have a lot of fabric stacked just over on the floor because I'm lacking a place to put it. So I can put it here. Technically, I could take out the shelves and just stack it, but then I wouldn't have that appeal of the pretty colors, which I actually do like. So I've decided to use it as is and make it work for me, but that's just kind of my opinion. It does completely fold up and shut and look kind of like just a wardrobe, which is also nice, especially if you have a small space, or maybe you sew like in a public space like a kitchen or an extra family room or something like that. So this is where I do my pressing. These are like wool pressing mats. So I have 4 of them and they connect. They're actually by the brand Aliso, which is that little iron down there. And these little orange tabs just connect to the other one underneath. I think they're rubber, the little orange tabs. Okay, and so then all 4 are now connected and I just press onto here. I have the Chi iron. I am actually going to look into getting the Panasonic cordless iron just because the cord gets in the way. I really don't like having to deal with the cord. I have my other container of clips I told you. Those are really handy. This is a pressing hand by Wawak, and if you don't have one, I highly recommend it. They're great for curves, princess seams, darts, anything like that. It just really helps you to get your garment pressed well. And then I have like a million rulers. I have this type that is like a heat-safe plastic, so I can actually place this on my fabric, press the fabric up using the measurement. So if it's a 1/2 inch hem, I would press the fabric up to the 1/2 inch and then press on that, and that does a really good job. I have this one, which is another heat-safe pressing ruler by Dritz. It's the same idea. There's like, measurements that you can press to, and yeah, it just works well. I would just say with any tool you're using to press with, it's gonna get very hot. So give it a second before you grab it and move it while you're pressing, because I've burned my fingers a few times. I've got the seam gauge, which is always handy to have. If you don't have one, highly recommend it. You just slide your red tab to the width of the seam that you need, and then you can measure and see where things are on your pattern. This is actually a camera thing. It allows me to see, when I'm recording with my phone, I'm recording on the back, so I can't actually see myself. So sometimes when I'm doing a tutorial, I'll use this and it will actually Bluetooth to my phone camera and then show me what is actually being recorded and what the screen looks like. So that way I make sure I'm in the screen and I'm recording properly and things like that. It was from Amazon too. We've got my Canon camera for when I do tutorials, my little hedgehog pin cushion that was a gift from Amanda on my team. We've got my fashion design textbook, chair, pink of course, and then all of just like the fabric and the notions and things like that all go in here. I keep my elastics, I keep my crochet stuff, I keep my scrapbooking stuff, I keep all of my craft stuff in this cabinet. It just works well to store all of that. So that's what that is. All right, over here we have my rack that holds halfway finished things, hung up fabric, and just sometimes garments that are already sewn but I haven't like taken up to my room just yet. And it's just a normal clothing rack that I got on Amazon, but it works really well for that purpose. That's pretty much my room. I just kind of have it set up to work well for me. So that's my room. It's nothing super fancy, but I feel like it works really well for me and I enjoy being in this space. So let me know what your sewing room looks like. How do you like to set it up? What are the things that you love in your sewing room? Any tools or sewing notions that you think maybe we might love to know about? I'd love to hear about it. Comment below. Please like, subscribe, and share, and that really helps me out. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.